Are Chelsea ruining football? Yes, people, why football? And after Chelsea have splashed 300 million in this January transfer window, I am discussing whether Chelsea have ruined football and in particular the transfer market. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear it, especially you Chelsea fans. And also while you're down there, make sure you subscribe. I'm already to 2,000 subscribers if you love football related content. So after securing Enzo Fernandez on deadline day for 120 million euros, Chelsea have brought their total spend in January to over 300 million. A fee that, to be honest, I did not think would be possible in one window, let alone a January transfer window. I thought spending 50 million in January would be decent for a club, but to do 6 times that amount in one window, including multiple players over 100 million, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Todd Boehly has come and he has shown that he is a billionaire by every right to spend that much money. But is it ruining football and is it ruining the beautiful game? Because there's been a feeling in recent years and decades that football has become very money oriented. Cash is king. There's less of the aspect that you can train a squad to be great and start from the ground up. You need to come in and you need investment to go anywhere. You just have to look at Man City, even Chelsea under Abramovich, and now what we're expecting from teams like Newcastle. If you have the investment, you will get the trophies. It's just a matter of time. Whereas other clubs that like to build up from the bottom, the likes of the Brentfords, the Brightons, for example, they're finding some success, but they will always get outbeaten and outcompeted by teams that have got huge amount of backing behind them. The good thing is, a team called Arsenal, which, let's be honest, have been absolutely brilliant this season and have not had huge sums of money. They've invested, don't get me wrong, they were the biggest spenders last summer, but didn't sign any world-class top talents, just signed a lot of good players, have shown that if you give the right manager time and good coaching and players that are willing to apply themselves correctly, you can still challenge for this Premier League. The problem is, when Chelsea start to adapt their players and they all start to gel and they go on to win titles, for example, will that then show that that was just one in like 10 league seasons, for example, 1 in 5 seasons? It'll be the first one since Leicester did it in 2016, and we'll go back to normality where cash will win Premier Leagues. For me, we have to look at it in the future, to be honest, because if Chelsea do not win a Premier League or Champions League, to be honest, in the next 3 to 4 seasons, it will be a massive flop on their behalf. To spend that much money and not secure any titles is poor. And to be fair, that's what Todd Boehly is expecting. You do not invest that much money into the football club to not get results. My question is someone like Graham Potter the right manager for that club? I mean, we're talking about a manager that has not necessarily ever been a checkbook manager. He's been a manager that, like I just mentioned Brighton earlier, he manages teams like that to do the project down tools to try and get them to do well with a limited budget. He's now been thrust into an environment where he's given boatloads of cash. Can he adapt to that? Has he got the man management ability to deal with big egos, big personalities, top players, clashes on the training ground? I'm not too sure. So whether they sack Graham Potter or keep him, that's a whole other question. But Chelsea, their whole philosophy behind splashing lots of cash, buying these top players, being ready right now to compete, doesn't align with the project manager they brought into the football club. But that's a whole other question. I've addressed that in previous years. The topic of this video is, are Chelsea ruining football? Because, like I've said earlier, splashing the cash has seemed to be the way in recent years. And for me, the things I've seen Arsenal do this season, the things I've seen Napoli do this season, it's really brought a smile to my face because it shows that not only is it all about money, sometimes it actually is about coaching now and having top talent coaches. Because on paper at the start of the season, a lot of people would say Arsenal are no winning the title, and many would say we're not going to get Champions League. But the fact Arsenal done so well is due to how well we're coached. If you watch Arsenal this season, you can see that Arteta has coached these boys day in, day out, and they play such beautiful football, and they're a team that know what they're doing. And it just goes to show that if you give the time on the training ground, beautiful things can happen. And I think that should be the way football is played. Football should be all about having good coaches, decent players, don't get me wrong, but you can win league titles without signing superstars. Because at the start of that season, no one expected Arsenal to have any superstars. They haven't got the Haalands. They didn't have the Ronaldo at the start of the season, for example. They haven't got the Salahs, the Heung-min Sons, the Harry Kanes of the world. But what's happened is, throughout the season, they've moulded superstars. Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko. All these players have turned out to be brilliant, when at the start of the season, many were not even labelling them world class. It just goes to show that if you put the right time in the training ground, good things can happen. But when you have Chelsea who come in now and have bought anyone that they want, to be fair, splashing way over the odds for players like Enzo Fernandez, Mykhailo Mudryk, etc., are they now just going to build a super team that's going to go on to win the Premier League and not give any other team a chance? It really could be that way, to be honest. So it's sad in that respect. The other thing is, right, for Todd Boehly, I mean, he's just gone to prove that It's not as hard as people think. A lot of the owners say, oh, it's hard to secure deals in January. It's not that easy. This brother's coming, he spent 300 million in his January window and spent about 500 in the summer. Like, this man is spending cash. He has no two thoughts about it. He just goes to show that if a club wants to make deals in January, they can make it happen. Clubs are just reluctant. They are pocket pinching too much. And he's going to show it is possible. And he's been a really proactive owner. So I feel Chelsea fans, because look, I'm not a Chelsea fan right now. So Chelsea fans can feel free to say, oh, I'm just salty. I've got tears because it's not my club. And maybe so, but I'm saying this from an unbiased standpoint. I'm saying this from a football fan overall. I would rather all clubs have a certain budget that they can spend, and like there'll be like a cap on a window. For example, the NBA, NFL do salary caps. Why don't they make it a 200 million cap a window, for example? 150 million cap a window. So if you want to spend up to 150 million, you can. But if you only want to spend 20 million, you can. But you cannot exceed that. I think that would be a good idea for UEFA to implement, because it means certain clubs can't just spend over the odds in one window. And I know Chelsea will loophole it. Would have done this already through player amortization, signing 7, 8, 9-year contracts, just so the player can spread out that transfer fee over multiple years, so when it comes to their accounting, they can basically get away with it. And they'll find another loophole. That's just the way it is when you've got the best lawyers in the world, basically. You can find ways to get out of FFP, etc. So they need to be more hardlined in this. But will that ever be implemented? I'm not too sure, to be honest. I'm really, really not too sure. The other problem Chelsea have is now, they know, well, clubs know Chelsea are willing to spend money. So when they go to sign more players, and maybe they want to, when they want to spend less money, it ain't going to happen. Everyone knows Chelsea are willing to spend money. Enzo Fernandez, look, this man's a brilliant footballer. Do not get me wrong. He's an absolutely outstanding footballer. I watched him in the World Cup and I was mesmerised. Everyone knows he is not worth 120 million. Same with Mudryk, to be fair. He's not worth 100 million either. You know that's the case because he won the Young Player of the World Cup, Enzo Fernandez. When that happens, top teams snoop out after them. Look at James Rodriguez, who won it in the 2014 World Cup. Bang, Real Madrid are right on his case, for example. Right, so Enzo Fernandez won Young Player of the World Cup, 22-year-old, in that midfield. Brilliant footballer, box to box, looking like one of the best talents to come for the future. And right now, Real Madrid will be looking at him. Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Man City, Barcelona. Top teams will look at this man. They see the price tag of 120 million. They don't even bother asking questions after that. They're like, what's the point? He's not worth it. But who comes snooping around? Chelsea Football Club. They're willing to spend that money. Every club knows that Chelsea, you can milk them. You can milk them big time. Because there's no way this club has got any sense of idea of how much a player is worth. On the other respect, you've got a club like Arsenal, who are interested in a lot of players. Mudryk, for example. But they've got a cap. They're willing to spend a certain amount of money, and if they don't believe the player is worth the amount the club is charging, they pull out of negotiations. So they're not getting as many players as Chelsea, so it's not as exciting. But in the long run, they've shown to be shrewd investors, astute negotiators, so they're not going to be ripped off as much in the future. Chelsea, on the other hand, they've shown they've got a boatload of cash. So they're going to be ripped off in the future. It's just the way it is. They're going to be hard to secure signings. Because when they go try and sign players in the summer, they'll go, hold on a minute, you're willing to pay 120 for Enzo. I want 100 million for this player. Chelsea can go, he's not worth that. Whoa, he is to us. And then Chelsea will have to either must up the fee or not, and they won't get the player. And that's just how it goes. So Chelsea spending all this money, although it looks good in the short term, is it necessarily going to work in the long term in that respect? Then there's a whole other scenario of whether these players will gel together. It's one thing signing a bunch of players, but this isn't FIFA Ultimate Team. You need those players to gel together on the training pitch alongside a brilliant coach that can manage all those personalities. Chelsea have a lot of problems. I already said before, it's a project that, to be honest, could go one of two ways. It could go absolutely brilliantly, or it could absolutely flop. Only time will tell. Either way, it'll be extremely exciting to see. And look, Chelsea have spent a boatload of cash this January transfer window. They've spent more than clubs in certain leagues put together, basically. But it just goes to show that the owner has a lot of ambition. They're clearly a club that wants to get back to the very, very top under what they had with Roman Abramovich. And only time will tell whether they will reach that stage. Whether they've ruined football or not, that remains to be seen. But clearly, it just goes to show that cash very much is king still in football. As always, I know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the topic. It's a really interesting one, actually. Whether you're a Chelsea fan or other football fan, I'd love to hear it. If you're new around here and you love football-related transfer news and just football-related stories in general, make sure you subscribe down below on my road to 2,000 subscribers. I've been Football and hope to see you all in my next video.